I can speak for the majority of America quite clearly that nobody's holding up signs saying it's Liberation Day coming. It's Liberation Day. That's not something that people are cheering for. We found out last Friday, consumer sentiment is at a 3-year low in this country. 59% across the board of different wealth levels and all politics say that the economy is in the wrong direction, and they disapprove of Trump's handling of that economy. The Federal Reserve Bank is very skittish. Goldman Sachs, one of our largest banks, just revised the outlook on a recession to 35%. And the markets are wrecked, not here in the U.S., but around the world. We woke up today on a Monday morning, which is seen that this is a few days away. Tariffs can often be used as a negotiating technique. But Trump really is kind of going by the 1890s approach of a former president, William McKinley, who thought that tariffs could really support the operations of the U.S. government. But that's before, Lucy, we now live in this globally interdependent world, which can be mutually beneficial. And Trump sees this as a way to spur innovation, build more factories in America, build up the American worker. But in essence, the way he's going about it, the automakers are very concerned because even the U.S. automakers use foreign parts. Americans are seeing that cars may go up by thousands of dollars, in which Donald Trump said yesterday, I could care less.
He said he doesn't care. I couldn't care less. Yeah.
It doesn't care. Now they revised it and said he doesn't care less if you have to buy a foreign car and pay more money. But you're going to pay more money for an American car as well. So the American people are not all aboard this liberation train. And quite honestly, we're hearing that at the White House. And Dan, I bet you're hearing this in Washington yourself, that Trump's pushing his team to be even more aggressive. But 3 days is a long time at that White House behind the scenes. And we'll see if this is indeed a negotiating tactic or if the last person in the room with Donald Trump before he decides on these tariffs is someone that will be aggressive and will push him to levy something on all countries.
Now, Dan, Downing Street, even last night, I think it flashed up on my phone, it's trying desperately to avoid these taxes coming in and affecting us here in the UK. But it's going to hurt, isn't it? It's going to hurt us here.
Yeah, I was at an embassy a couple of weeks ago where they were sort of, hopeful that they would be able to get some sort of carve out, as they put it, an exemption for the UK. They felt this could be a kind of Brexit bonus, if you like. We sit outside of the EU, we can make our own trade policy now, and therefore this would be an example of perhaps us being able to negotiate a better deal than Europe was going to get. But that doesn't seem to be the case. He made it very clear in that clip that this is going to apply to everyone. It's going to come in on Wednesday, and it's going to apply, to cars. We've already had steel and aluminium tariffs of 25%. And to pick up a point Laura was saying, this is going to affect the American consumer hugely because, okay, they can choose not to buy a BMW or a car made, a Mercedes or something in Europe. But a lot of the components that go into US cars are brought in from abroad, and they will also be subject to 25%. I think about 60% of the parts that make US-built cars come in from abroad, many of them from Mexico and Canada. So the cost of cars, whether they're American-made or whether they're imported, is going to go up. And we were talking the other day to a second-hand car dealer who said, the ripple effect is second-hand used cars are going to go up in value as well. Obviously, if the price of the new cars jumps 25%, suddenly sellers are going to be able to command a greater premium for their second-hand cars. So all of the prices are going to start creeping up. And once again, we've mentioned this before, that's going to feed back into inflation and, something that is stubbornly still quite high. The Federal Reserve has, really not got much room for cutting rates at the moment. And this is going to make that even more difficult.
And we don't really know what consumer goods are defined by. So I think a lot of Americans are looking at the auto prices because it's just so easy to see. You pass by a dealership, if it went up this week from last week. So I think that's going to be really that kind of bailing point to look at.
I mean, Dan, I suppose watching, the Chancellor give our spring statement early last week, and then within hours, Trump had announced these tariffs, totally shifting, the wriggle room that Rachel Reeves have for, potential disaster, and making us totally at the mercy here of Donald Trump and his whims and his decisions. Is that just how it's going to be the next 4 years, do you think?
It feels like it, doesn't it? Yeah, I mean, this kind of, they call it fiscal headroom, which is a complicated way of saying how much maneuvering room the Chancellor has between, the money they take in and the money that goes out, essentially. And obviously, you need to be taking in a bit more than is going out. And I think that fiscal headroom is being eroded even further by the potential tariffs that are going to be levied, by the knock-on effects on the UK economy. So although this sounds like very kind of esoteric economic talk, people in the UK might think, why on earth do I care about car prices in the US? Because it is going to have a direct impact on the UK economy, potentially on tax rises in the UK. It may mean that the Chancellor has no choice come the autumn, but to have another look at spending, either cut spending again or put taxes up.